right now, it's time for the C Block starring Corey Majors. And Corey, I believe today is your special guest. We have an Emmy winner with us.
Yes, it is Hailey Sutton from DallasCowboys.com. Where is the Emmy? Is it like on the mantle? Do you have it in the bed? Where's the Emmy go?
Oh,
yeah, I've been fortunate to win a couple of awards. The Emmy was actually from college. It was a best sports reporter in college for the state of Texas. So I keep that one very close to home. It sits kind of on a bookshelf so I can look at it every day and remind myself that I still got it.
What college?
The University of North Texas.
Okay.
Go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green. Yeah. So, but actually, we're all super excited. DallasCowboys.com did great this year in terms of contact. We had 16 Emmy nominations from DallasCowboys.com, including myself and Kyle Yeomans, which is my road dog. So it's exciting for both of us making this transition into our next part of our career. It's been fun.
You were, I'm assuming, RTVF then. Am I correct in this?
I actually was Mayborn. So,
okay, me too. All right.
So my undergraduate degree is actually from Texas A&M Corpus Christi. It's an exercise science degree, but it meant nothing to me because I was playing soccer and I just needed an easy, an easy degree. Fun story, actually, I started as an art major in college and I failed out of art school. I wanted to do graphic design and photography, and at Texas A&M Corpus Christi, the track is an art degree. So the first class I ever took in college was this ridiculous design class where we were drawing with charcoal and we were like having to do wood sculptures and all this stuff. And so I knew I couldn't do it. So that's why I ended up in kinesiology. But yeah, North Texas, I graduated from the Mayborn.
And you frequent the Get Right with KG and our friend Reggie, who's back in studio right now.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on Reggie?
I like Reggie. We both share a love of soccer.
Okay.
So we I don't get to talk a lot of soccer with anybody here because it's not the most popular football that we have. So we do share a love of soccer. I think we have competing teams, though. I'm an Arsenal fan, and I think Reggie's a Manchester United fan. That could also be Kevin Gray. Okay, so you both are Manchester United fans. So we kind of go tit for tat a little bit back and forth.
And Reggie, then your thoughts on Hailey?
She's incredible at her job, as evidenced by the Emmy, which you cannot state enough. And it's really great to follow her work. And fun to talk.
What do you think about her
likewise.
soccer rooting, though?
Yeah.
I mean, Arsenal's fun. Arsenal's a good team, except
Arsenal
when
is
it comes
like
down
the Dallas
to the
Cowboys of the Premier League, I would say. Just
lot
from
of
a
hype,
fan.
don't win.
Yep.
I gotcha.
Yep. They get this close.
Yeah.
And then they finish in second place behind a Manchester City team that is stacked. So it is what it is. It's the cards we've been dealt.
I'm not sure. Is this your first camp?
This is my first camp, yeah. So I actually joined the team last September. It was right after Dak broke his thumb, and it was the Cooper Rush game. So Cooper Rush's first game as a starter, that Monday was my next day. So. Okay.
And the experience, has it been everything that you've thought it would be so far?
I think so, yeah. It's crazy. So I'll give you another fun story. 2 years ago, when I was living in Alabama and working at a television station in Alabama, Kyle actually reached out to me when they first reopened this position. And Kyle said, hey, they've got this position. I really want you on this team. Like, can you get your stuff together and send it to our people? So I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So here I am scrambling, trying to, put all my stuff together. And the Cowboys, for me, it's my hometown team. I grew up in Red Oak, Texas. And so,
nice.
Being from this area, this is my team. So I'm scrambling to put everything together. I knew it wasn't probably my best reel, but it was the best at what I had in the time frame I was given. So sent it in. I think I was one of the final 4 for the job 2 years ago, and then Derek, ultimately they went in a different direction. So that was kind of crushing, but then to come back a year later and have them reach out and say, hey, we want you on the team, it's been awesome. And like I said, just to be able to talk about these guys, to get to know them better as people, your mentality shifts from being, a fan to now you're really getting to know the ins and outs of the organization. So it's been good.
And speaking of, we did have to bump you last week for Sam Williams at the last second.
That's okay. That's all right.
But you told, he gave us this wild information that he did not know that Van Der Esch had the radio in his headphone, in his helmet. And we were like,
Sam.
wow. And you were like, and when I texted you and said, hey, I appreciate it, you were like, man, Sam Williams is great. What do they have in Sam Williams? What is this guy?
I'm very biased about Sam Williams because I've covered him at every stage of his career. I got the final year whenever he was in Montgomery, so I covered him in high school as a senior. Continued to follow him at Ole Miss in that part of his journey, and then obviously coming back here to the Cowboys. I just think he's such a special human, and you can't get enough good humans in the National Football League because everybody's good at football. We've seen the competition between all of these guys and who's competing for what. But at the end of the day, when you're a good person at your core, I think that really stands out. And for Sam, he was one of the first guys who, welcomed me into the locker room. He always gives me the time of day. The other day when they were going through team drills, he came off the field and he came up and we have a little handshake that we've been practicing. And he came up to me and did the handshake, and it's just those little moments like that stand out because we know how these guys in the football league can be. Sometimes they're a little too big time. Sometimes they don't want to talk to you. Sometimes they don't want to give you the time of day. And Sam is never like that. He is a great person at his core. And quite frankly, he's a great football player. I think he's going to take the top off of this defense this year.
But maybe too loud in interviews, and that gets us in trouble, right?
Yeah, we did get in a little bit of trouble with Brad Sham.
Yeah.
Well, it was actually all
we were
of us.
having just too much fun with
enjoying
him.
it.
Great. He is great. I cannot say enough good stuff. And he's got a tremendous story. This is a kid who's been through quite a lot personally. He's been affected by gun violence really, really deeply in his family, and he is very open and honest about how that's affected him and how he wants to use this platform to not only, elevate him and elevate himself as a football player, but also to create awareness that other things need to be done besides football.
Now, yesterday, I do believe, Mike, you're a huge fan of NBA Jam. They had the Cowboys shirts, and it had, I believe, QB1 and CD on it. Is that wrong? Am I wrong about that?
So the one that I have has Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin on it.
Okay.
I do like the Dak CD one, but I feel awkward wearing anything that has to do with our current roster.
Makes
it just
sense.
feels a
Makes
little too
sense.
rah-rah cheerleady. But CD had the one that had him and Dak on it.
Did he come find you and say, "Hey,
no.
I love this"? Or you,
Oh,
you
no.
definitely tracked him down?
Somebody pointed it out to me on our team, and they're like, "Oh, you have to go get a picture with CD. He's matching." So I was over here, and CD was on the jugs machine, and he was getting ready to sign autographs. So I booked it across the thing, and I was like, "CD, come take a selfie with me." So it was cool.
What do you think about that room, that wide receiver room, and how it's maybe changed a little bit? Because I know there was a time where they were, when Amari was here, they were still asking, we need more alphas to come out of that room. We need a more vocal room out of that. And CD, he grew into that role a little bit last year, but now it's changing a little more.
Yeah, I think. I wish that we could have gotten this deal done with Brandon Cooks at the trade deadline last year, because I can just envision the way that last season would have ended, and I can guarantee that it wouldn't have ended the way it did last year if he was on the roster.
Wow.
So I think bringing in a guy like Brandon Cooks, who, let's be real, he's been counted out for the last 2 seasons. The expectations aren't there. So you bring in a guy who's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got the statistics. He's got the history. You partner that with a CeeDee Lamb who has been asked to step into that wide receiver 1 role. You bring them 2 together, and then you see that young talent that Mike McCarthy always talks about. He continues to say, we're going to rely on the young guys, and the young guys have not disappointed. I know you kind of teed up Jalen Brooks. Jalen Brooks has been my sleeper since they drafted him in the 7th round, because he has all the makings of what you want an elite wide receiver to be. He's tall, he's physical, he's a great route runner. He's still growing into his body, and I think give him another offseason to really build and get that coordination down and work with some of these coaches that's going to fine-tune it. But, man, he has made that competition for wide receiver 4 spot really, really, really challenging.
Which is good, because we've talked about in the past, not necessarily the Cowboys at wide receiver, but we've talked a lot about people getting positions by default. And I like the idea that, hey, they are using Kevontae Turpin, in the correct fashion, but he has to compete. He has to compete with this person, compete with that person. Maybe we're going to use Hendershot out on the screens a little bit more, where he has to compete with Deuce, where he has to compete with Tony Pollard. And I like the unconventional competitions, because it hopefully shows you have a really talented team.
I agree. I think this wide receiver battle is going to be a lot more difficult than we anticipated, because the initial conversation going in was it's either Jalen Tolbert's job to win or it's Simi Fajoko's job to win.
Yeah.
And I think if you're looking at that battle, Jalen Tolbert has blown Simi out of the water, just in terms of what he's been able to do in the offseason and improve his game. But to your point, Kevontae Turpin has also had a fantastic camp, in my opinion, and he's someone who, quite frankly, I was a little bit nervous about him stepping into that role, because he'd been playing football for so long and he was tired, and we kind of pinned him as our special teams guy. But he's made it really difficult, and he's made some not only important catches, but he's made some athletic catches, I think, that have made the coaching staff kind of go we can use that.
Now, Jerry sat down with us yesterday, and Mike asked him about Zeke, and, Jerry had just told us, I like to stir the pot. So he was, leaving that door open. I think almost, 15 minutes later, McCarthy's up on the podium, and he's like, "I'm not. Well, just because we hit a bump doesn't mean we're going to change our path." And so we know Tony Pollard's the guy. He's going to get the explosive plays for you. What are you thinking about the rest of that room?
Yeah, I think that Ronald Jones, well, let me go back. I don't think that Ezekiel Elliott will be on this team. As much as I would love him to be, I think he's a fantastic human, one of my favorites. I just don't think that at this present moment, the need for him is enough to bypass the entire group that you have here at camp.
Wouldn't that be the kind of by default, you get the position by default kind of situation?
Yeah, and cool. Maybe they find a way to make it work, and that's awesome, but I don't think he's necessarily, I don't think that that's really in the moves. Jerry likes to stir the pot. We know that.
Yeah.
But in terms of the rest of that room, I really feel for Ronald Jones because he's had such a difficult career, just being hurt by injuries, not meeting those expectations. And yeah, he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. Yeah, he's got all this experience. But when you really look at what he's done, like, it definitely hasn't been the career he wants. So now you get into the situation where he thinks that I wouldn't say had it locked up, but I would say that Ronald Jones, in my opinion, was the front runner to be that running back too. And then you get hit with a suspension from the NFL over something that, he's been prescribed for medication. It's just like he can't catch a break. So I'm really glad that Mike McCarthy did stand up at the podium yesterday and say, like, we're not going to just hang him out to dry just because the situation's happened. These are the cards that we've been dealt, so we've got to work through it. So I think that there's still a really strong chance that he ends up being that running back too. But Malik Davis looks really great, too, and you'll see Deuce Vaughn as well, the people's champion, as the fans have been calling him all week. I think you'll kind of see Deuce be a special addition, a special package that they'll build for him. So I feel for Ronald Jones. I do not think Ezekiel Elliott will be a Cowboy.
Now, with the injury to, we saw Schoonmaker out on the other field today getting closer and closer. Steven told us hopefully by the end of the week he'll be out there practicing. But I am curious. It seems like minor injuries at the time, but for rookies or new to the club players, how much does it hurt your progress when you're not able to be out there even a week?
See, what's tough about Luke Schoonmaker is this is a plantar fasciitis issue. And so it's one of those things where he's basically got two choices. You can, as the second-round draft pick, you can monitor it. You can play through it to the best of your ability. You can do whatever you can to get through that plantar fasciitis and then have it fixed at the end of the season. Or you bite the bullet and you get it fixed now, and you don't play this year or until later in the season, and you come back next year and kind of, reestablish yourself. But to your point, it does hurt you, especially when you think about this fan base and how they feel about drafting. And people
and the
already,
second round,
people already were not happy about the pick at that we took for Schoonmaker. So it's interesting to me, but it hurts his stock, especially that tight end room. As much as we'd like to pin Jake Ferguson as the next Dalton Schultz, Peyton Hendershot is a dude as well, Seth Green, and also the undrafted guy, John Stevens, who has came in. He's turned some heads as well. So it's definitely a tough position for Schoon to be in.
Have you had much of a chance to be around Stephon Gilmore and chat with him? What's he like? What's the personality like?
I love Steph.
Yeah?
I love Steph. He reminds me a lot of Trayvon in the sense of that he's very quiet, very reserved. He keeps to himself. But if you engage in a one-on-one conversation with him, he opens up. And Stephon was one of the first players that I kind of got to interact with this offseason, one of the newer players. And yeah, he's very funny. He's very I asked him the other day as we were coming out of dinner, because this is his first training camp too. And I said, how much better is this than where you came from before? And he said, it's not even close. He's not even close.
We were talking about that walking in, if you went to the Jags training camp.
Horrible.
Yeah.
It'd be horrible. But yeah, I think what Stephon Gilmore brings is that veteran presence. We talk a lot about the veterans versus the rookies and how the veterans are supposed to elevate the rookies and vice versa. But I think Stephon has really taken that challenge head on because this is a guy who brings a lot of experience to the table. We know what we're going to see from him from a football standpoint, but I think what's been really special is just providing that mentorship to guys like Deron Bland, even to Trayvon Diggs. You see them on the sideline when Trayvon's not in, and they're constantly communicating with one another. And I think that it's invaluable for a team like this that for the last 3 seasons, they've just been missing that one thing. And I think that the communication, the rapport, and everything that they're developing, that aspect of it will help.
Now, Kevin, since we've started the show and we were a weekend show and even through the nights, anytime we would have a girl on or a woman, there was always very, very similar.
Oh my God!
No, I don't want to hear a girl talk football.
You can only talk about women's basketball.
Yeah.
Like I can. I've actually never played basketball, so I can't talk about women's basketball.
Our fan text looks a lot different right now. This girl's fire. Hailey Sutton's awesome at covering the Cowboys. She needs to be on with you guys every day. That's great stuff right there. You came on and delivered just like I knew you would. That's what that's what us Mean Green do, man. That's just how we do it.
We elevate
especially the
every room we're
Mayborn
in.
School. We were taught right, man.
Why did Reggie tell us not to have her?
Reggie
on
was
then?
like, "Hey, man, I'm not sure about her. She's suspect.
She's a get right.
You know,
guy.
yeah.
This is really territorial.
Check her out, and when she hops on the Get Right, maybe we'll be lucky enough to have her on again in the future."
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you guys. This
When
has
do you
been
think
so
the
much
Mean
fun.
Green will be any good at football?
I don't
Man.
know because I played for the one team that has consistently been good at that school in the soccer team, so that's what I pay attention
Look, we're
to.
soccer, tennis, and liberal arts. All right, like that's what we do well. That's
And
just
broadcast
it.
journalism.
We don't even have a
I
baseball
am
team,
interested
Mike.
to see how the new head coach changes some stuff. I know that Seth Luttrell was kind of a mixed bag in terms of production and all of that. So I am interested to see how the move to the new conference and also a new coaching staff, how that will bode well. But if I'm honest, I haven't watched a North Texas football game in quite some time.
Yeah. Not good job, Mike. Thanks, man.
Well, I mean, you said you guys are good at everything. I'm like, you guys are pathetic.
We're good at journalism and liberal arts and those
I mean,
things.
they are.
Thank you very much for the time.